The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and hail to all. Heed the words I now shall call. Live you must, and let to live. Fairly take, and fairly give. Do what thou will, if it harms none. By the magic of old, may it be done. Greet the days and greet the night, with joy and thanks for all delights. 9 woods in the cauldron go, as above, so below. Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para X Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, Merry Maid, everybody. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining me here on the Para X Radio Network for the first bit of Cauldron Stirring of 2019. I don't know what we're doing tonight exactly, because I've got Geoff Gould supposed to be here to talk about Doctor Who, the new Doctor, and we can't seem to find him. So in the meantime, though, I have Bonnie Vent with me because she was going to come on early in the show anyway, because we've got something cooking this Sunday and probably every Sunday thereafter. So, Bonnie, hi.
Hi, Marla.
Gee, I wonder if it's going to be both of us, you and I, tonight. The badger has gone awry or something. I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I wish I was a Doctor Who fan right now, but I have no idea. All I know is there's a TARDIS, which is a phone booth, so he must have disappeared in the phone booth.
Well, maybe that. I don't know. But we have some things to talk about. Well, we have one thing that we were going to talk about anyway, but we might now have the choice to expound on it a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you the proverbial mic, and let's tell everybody what's in store.
Well, for hardcore Para X listeners, you know that I'm on Marla's show periodically, and we do channeling with the connection. And people in the chat ask questions, which Marla reads out to me, and the connection provides answers to their questions. And so we're taking a similar format, and we're doing live stream video on YouTube, which is a very popular format. Also allows you to see us as we're doing what we're doing.
God help them all. Sorry.
And along with that, I've invited Cynthia and her husband, and they're going to sit here with me. One of the things you're probably aware of with live streaming on YouTube is that it's a little glitchy. So with me being in channel, it would be very difficult for me to handle any technical difficulties. So they're going to be sitting with me, And they're also very involved with ghost hunting equipment and things like that. So they're bringing whatever equipment they want to bring. I don't even know. And they're going to be monitoring me while I'm channeling. And as far as I know, and feel free to correct me if I'm not right on this, I don't think any other channeler has subjected themselves to that kind of scrutiny. So it's going to be, I think, a much more interesting experience for everyone, actually, because if you're coming from the ghost hunter, paranormal investigator type realm, then you'll find the equipment and the monitoring interesting. If you're metaphysically, spiritually oriented, the connection provides very high-level messages. So it would not be such as you see with mediums doing readings online, for instance. I like to think of it more of a life coaching type of thing. It's done on a very high level, and it usually benefits the entire audience or a good percentage of the audience. So the channeling is very different in and of itself, and then we're including into that the monitoring equipment. So I hope that it will be very interesting, and it will be live. So, and we're brand new kids at doing this. So be prepared for bloopers and lots of laughing and things like that until we get all the glitches worked out. But that's the basic concept of what we're doing. So it'll run off of my YouTube channel, and there's a chat provided for you to put your questions in. I do warn you to get there early, though, because those that are familiar with YouTube chat, they tend to get very busy, and the chat goes by very quickly. Poor Marla's job is going to be to monitor that chat and to get the questions and ask them. And I don't imagine that we'll be able to do huge numbers of questions per session. Probably 4 or 5 would be my guess, because the connection tends to have long-winded kind of answers to things. They tend to take things on a very deep level, so it's not just a yes, no, maybe kind of answer.
It's going to be interesting for sure. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, somebody in the chat room asked what time on Sunday, and is it just this Sunday or every Sunday?
The current plan is to do it every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and it'll be on YouTube. Probably the easiest thing for people to do is go to my website, and on the home page I've posted up all the pertinent information, where to go on YouTube. It helps if you subscribe also. I will be putting links and things like that on Facebook to make it a little easier for people to find the show. But if you already are a member of YouTube, then you can just subscribe and click the little bell for notifications, and you'll receive an email when the show goes live. So you'll be like the first ones on the scene.
Okay. And so is there a link on your website that they can just click to get there? And then you also said people should sign up, subscribe to your channel so they can get updates and things like that?
Yeah, they'll get, if you click on the bell for notification, you will get an email in your inbox saying that the show has gone live. The other, you can link directly to the video, which I will put up. So if you have Facebook, you can friend me on Facebook, and I'll be putting links up there also. You can actually go to the spot where the video is going to be live and click that you want to be reminded. And that will also provide you with a reminder. So there's more than one way to do it.
It should be interesting. I mean, for the first time it might be, because I've had to do that before for YouTube shows. It's not hard. It's just something new. something different. Once you get the hang of it, it's boom, it's there.
Well, if you're very familiar with YouTube, then I'm telling you things that you've long since know about. So I just decided that the YouTube platform was more stable, and the show, for those that can't make it live, the show will archive automatically on YouTube after we complete the session. So you can catch it any time on my YouTube channel. It will remain there.
Okay, that's good. And so now, just explain, because I think Geoff is around and he's opening his Skype right now. But in the meantime, we're going to, it's not that you're doing personal readings for people. I mean, we need to kind of set the perimeters of what you're going to be doing and what kind of questions people should ask.
Right. There's, if you go to my website, in the announcement that I put in there, there's a video there that you can click on, which is a live session that I did here in San Diego. And it will give you a pretty good idea of the level of questions. So what we're trying to do is provide, like I say, more of a life coaching type of answers than such personal. And there again, it's going to stay on YouTube for the rest of our natural lives. And so you may not want your personal business out on YouTube either. So it might be a better thing to just stay away from the personal questions and more into, like for instance, I just did a session on predictions for 2019. And one of the things they brought up was that heart-centered businesses are going to be more successful. So you could ask a question about a type of business that you might be wanting to get involved in, and if the influences work well with that kind of thing. So that benefits other people as well, because we're trying to create a body of work here that'll be helpful to everybody that comes behind us, that's looking for answers, the big answers in life. Not so much the am I going to get the boyfriend and am I going to get a new job kind of thing, but more the bigger picture.
Right. Okay. So best thing to do is go over to your website, which is bonnivent.com, BONNIEVENT.com. And it's just about everything that you need to know about what's coming up, and how to do it and whatever. It's all there.
Yes, it is.
We're making it very easy for people.
I'm one step ahead of everybody, barely.
I know. Yeah, well, even half a step is good because, I think people are afraid to, oh, my God, YouTube streaming. Well, I'm going, oh, my God, YouTube streaming. I'm always behind the curtain, too, except for my voice. So, yeah, now we're going to actually be seen, which is, kind of strange.
Yeah, the way this is going to work, when Marla's talking, you'll see Marla, and when the connection is talking, you'll see me, and the connection coming through me. So for those that like to do analysis work on mediums and, what kind of things you can see, there oftentimes, can't guarantee, but oftentimes anomalies will happen as well. So there are things that you can be on the lookout for. So there's really something for everybody in what we're doing. And obviously you can put any things that you observe directly into the chat. Those also get archived, and so we can look at those, go back and look at those later. Live shows run really, really quickly, so I'll apologize in advance before we even start if you type in a question and we don't get to it. But you can always get a hold of us separately, and we'll try and include them into the next, because we're going to be doing these every week. So we can always include the questions going forward into the next session.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure this out. Geoff is ready. Sarge, can you try and call him in? And in the meantime, somebody just said I'm going to pretty soon I'm going to need a glam squad. Yeah, a big one, a major one.
I'm planning on doing a long shot away, so I'm not going to be up in your face. That's it's a little too much.
Well, it should, good thing the connection talks a lot, because then it won't be on me so much.
Yeah, Marla always teases me. She goes, "You're such a great guest. All I have to do is say one thing and just let you go." And that's kind of true. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I love it because, and especially, I'm just, one of the tools on this thing. I'm just going to be asking questions, and that's, and hopefully the chat room, as you said, won't fly by so fast that I can't get them without going cross-eyed. But again, it's going to be trial and error.
Yeah, it is a live show, and like I say, you have to bear with us because none of us have really done this before in this particular format. So we're going to be working the kinks out as we go, and the platforms are not that stable, as everybody knows. So you could have everything all tested and ready to go, and then you get ready to go live, and the screen freezes, or all of those things happen. So we're just going to keep a real good sense of humor about everything that's going on and try not to pull our hair out. And, we'll get really good information, hopefully, out to people. And that's the mission, is to get everything out to the masses. Messages for the masses is the way I like to put it.
Okay. All right. I think Geoff is here. And Geoff, if you are, say hello.
Hello. Somehow he called me on the phone instead of Skype.
Well, you're here. That's all that
matters.
There's one way or the other. So, all right. So, Bonnie, we'll see everybody on Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be talking to you before then, chewing my nails and whatever. And finding the glam squad, because we'll need that. I'll send some to you too. You don't need it.
Just put T up in front of the camera, and he can be the star.
Yeah, it's okay. I'd hold him for 5 minutes, and I'd be dripping blood. All right, Bonnie, thank you so much. And again, it's bonnievent.com for everybody that wants to find out about it, and it's coming up this Sunday. So thank you, Bonnie. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Marla.
You're welcome. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Now, Geoff Gould is here with us, and I opened the show with music by Kevin MacLeod, and it was called Guess Who? And that's what people were wondering back a few months ago when Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor Who, started his regeneration process on the series Cliffhanger, and people were guessing who the lucky number 13 would be. Now, those who are not familiar with Doctor Who, the Doctor's an alien Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey who travels through time and space in the TARDIS with various companions. And instead of dying, the Doctor is able to regenerate into a new body, taking on a new personality with each regeneration. And so who the new Who will be is always a mystery. But one thing that never changed was the gender of the Doctor until now. Now, before we go any further, this might be a good opportunity to give you some information about Geoff Gould, a diehard Whovian. He's also a character actor, screenwriter, director, and voiceover artist who is fascinated with most aspects of the paranormal. And he's been the co-host on The Paranormal View with Henry Foister and Barbara Duncan since 2011. Oops, almost gave you an extra year short, Geoff.
Yeah, seriously.
But here you are, and it's nice having you back. And just want to say that before we jump in with both feet, if anyone has any questions or comments about Doctor Who and you're in the ParaX chat room, just send me a private message and I'll pass it on to Geoff. And if you're not in the chat room, you better get over to www.para-x.com and then you can ask a question, right? Right. Easy enough.
So have you watched, you watch the current season that just finished with Jodie?
Indeed, I did. And I also watched the New Year's special yesterday.
It's the close the New Year's special was as close as they've come to being a Doctor Who episode this season.
Well, that's kind of right. Now, before we talk about the current Doctor Who, let's do a little bit of Doctor Who 101, because some people might not realize how long the show has been on the air. And so why don't you just give a little backstory, please?
Well, the show aired November 23rd, 1963, the day after Kennedy was shot. And, in fact, it was delayed, and I get different reports as to whether or not it was 20 seconds or 20 minutes. But the first episode was delayed the first day, and they actually re-aired it, which is very rare on the BBC, a few days later, because so many people missed it because there was so much news reports about JFK being killed. Mm-hmm. So the first episode introduced the Doctor, who is this very enigmatic elderly figure, played by William Hartnell. And he had a granddaughter named Susan, played by Carol Ann. Oh, she's her name flies out of my head because I wrote all of this stuff down for the modern era and such. But he had this young girl's. For some reason, they came to 1960s England, and she started attending private school, what we would call public school. And she met two of her teachers were amazed that on many subjects she seemed to be a little lost, and on others she was clearly a genius. But what was interesting was at the time in 1963, the British pound was all kinds of weird stuff. You had all these shillings and tuppence and halfpennies and farthings and all sorts of different coinage that went all over the place. And in the show, they do a flashback where Barbara, one of the teachers, asks Susan how much certain coinage goes into a pound. And apparently Susan was remembering that the British pound wasn't 100 cents per pound. And Barbara says, no, that's the American is 100 pence to $1. And she says, oh, that's right, England hasn't done that yet. And they hadn't, but they have since then. So already the show is starting to predict stuff out of the gate. And Barbara sorry?
No, I was just going to say the show is getting out of the gate, but how long has it been on? Let's go from start. Forget the intermission, but over the years.
Well, it went till the 1980s when the BBC sort of sabotaged it because they didn't like. They had a comptroller who didn't like the show, so he canceled it, and millions of people said, "We don't think so." And he said, "Oh, did I say cancel? I meant retooling. Yeah, we're gonna revamp it a bit." So it came back in 18 months with Colin Baker again, who was the sixth Doctor, and then they tried pulling a fast one on him, saying, "Well, you've been the Doctor for 3 years." He says, "No, I've only been the Doctor for 2 seasons." And he said, "Well, we say you've been the Doctor long enough." And so they brought in Sylvester McCoy, and they summarily fired Colin. They were amazed he didn't come back for a regeneration episode. Who knew? So McCoy's series was just a series of really bad scripts and terrible nonsense, and the viewership dropped off. And I don't know if it was the end of his second season or his first, but when they went off the air, they didn't make any kind of big announcement this time. They just were like, let's see when they notice that the show is not on anymore. But meanwhile, and there's a video on YouTube I came across that introduced what became the wilderness years, and that's 18-year gap between the classic era and the current era, which started in 2000. Was it 2005? I think.
Yeah, I think it was 2005.
Yeah, but the show never truly died because this one guy started creating these audio and even videos of like fan videos that he was able to get actors from the show to reprise their characters, but in order to avoid copyright, they were referring to the Doctor as the Professor or the Traveler or something like that, and they never ever showed how they traveled through time. He just did. And I mean, they didn't even have the little wristband called the Vortex Manipulator. He just like, oh, now we're in a new place. And the BBC began realizing, you're way too close to ripping us off, and we're going to like crush you like a bug if you don't knock it off. So he began doing like radio shows, and even that got too close. So what was interesting was Nicholas Briggs, who we now know is doing all these like Dalek and Cybermen voices, he created a company called Big Finish. And they had legitimately licensed permission from the BBC to make these audio plays much better than the fan videos were being done. But they were the proper actors. They had, before Tom Baker finally started doing them, there's a character actor who does a brilliant Tom Baker impression. So he would be the fourth Doctor, but they would bring in Louise Jameson to play Leela and such like that. So that all different Doctors have their own stories on these Big Finish audio productions that are still available, and they're still making them. And then Russell T. Davies came along and says, we think we could bring back Doctor Who. And the smartest thing he did was he didn't just reboot it like from the start. Like, okay, we have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, this is a continuation. Yeah. This is right after, because they had the terrible, watered-down, badly written TV movie with Paul McGann and Daphne Ashbrook, where the scriptwriters didn't even realize that humans count 1 to 10, not 0 to 9, and they were saying that 1999 was the last year of the millennium. And here's the Doctor not pointing out, saying, no, actually it would be the beginning of 2001 would be the next millennium.
Got a question from chat. Was Baker the longest-running Doctor?
Tom Baker ran for 7 years, and no one has come close to breaking that.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, some people that don't know kind of wonder why they keep getting new Doctors. Now, one really good explanation is that the show's run for 50-plus years, so at some point they do have to change Doctors. But, okay, another question. Wait, okay, go ahead, because there's another question. But
I was going to say that the first thing was William Hartnell became, ill. I mean, he was only in his 50s, but he had a, kind of a hard life, as it were. And when he became too ill to do the show, they were like, well, we could either try and get an actor who looks like him, but everyone's going to notice that, and it's going to be really awkward. But he's an alien, so why doesn't his species have the ability to regenerate, and they didn't use that term until like the third Doctor, heal himself in such a way that it's a completely different man? And they made sure that people realized this is the same character but completely different form by casting Patrick Troughton, who looks nothing like William Hartnell, and in fact he had this weird Black Beatles wig. And if anyone remembers The Omen, the original The Omen with Gregory Peck, Patrick Troughton was the priest who gets impaled by the lightning rod. And looking at that in hindsight, of course, it's really funny because one of his catchphrases was, when I say run, 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 and they would run. And here in The Omen, he's running and he still gets killed. But he regenerated. His character was more of a clownish Doctor. He was referred to as the cosmic hobo. And he did it for like 2 years, but they had tons of episodes. And the schedule was so intense that he was like, I think I've had enough. And so they brought in John Pertwee, who, again, looked very, very different. And he played it much more James Bondian with all kinds of gadgets and gizmos and action and chases and fight scenes and such like that. And then he regenerated after about 3 years into Tom Baker. And Tom Baker, as I say, had it for 7 years. And when he was finally realizing, I think it's wearing a little thin for me, so they brought in Peter Davison, who was at the time the youngest Doctor. Yeah. And everyone was like, no, he's too young. He was Tristan on All Creatures of Great and Small. How can you?
I remember.
how can you choose him? He's much too young to play the Doctor. But he was brilliant. But he made a mistake. He went to Patrick Troughton and asked, how long should I do this? And Troughton said, well, you should do it for 2 years. Taking his frame of reference was how much work was done. And Davison didn't realize that he had far less episodes. So he could have done it for 4 years and barely caught up to the amount of episodes that Troughton had done.
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing that, you get attached to one doctor, but then I guess, 7 years might be a long run. But I'm one who does get attached, and I don't want to see them leave, so I get disgruntled by each new one. The exception being David Tennant, okay? But, for example, I thought Matt Smith was far too young. And then I thought Peter Capaldi was far too old, and then Jodie Whittaker, female, but what happens is after an episode or two of the new seasons, they grow on me.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, there is nothing similar about any of them. There's no similarities as far as physically or in characterizations, other than playing the same role, because they all bring themselves to the role and the quirkiness and that comes out. And that's kind of the beauty of it. So, and in addition, now, okay, so we have Jodie Whittaker. And again, people are always saying it's about time and everything. There are people that like classic things and no, it's not classic to have a female doctor, and it was a big kind of question mark as to whether or not she would be good, she would be accepted, she would be anything. But here's the thing, too, that I noticed. Additionally, this season, we have a new doctor. She's a she, but the show also has new writers and new directors. So this has been kind of a really clean sweep, hasn't it?
To an extent. Not always for the best, unfortunately. What had happened was we have been introduced to the fact, Tom Baker actually said in an interview regarding the regeneration, he implied it could be a female. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the press all ran with that. Yeah. But then, doctor, all males. And then when Peter Capaldi was going to leave, they were looking for who to cast. Mm-hmm. And they brought out the teaser episode. And the one thing that I dreaded because I kept hearing female doctor, I'm thinking, you can't have a female Doctor Who because as much as, yes, we had Beverly Crusher on Next Generation, we also had Dr. Pulaski. Do you remember her?
Mm-mm.
Did you watch Star Trek Next Generation?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it found its sea legs in the third season.
I think Next Generation was, okay. Yeah, no, I did, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, that was a real long time ago. So, okay. Yeah. There you go.
Well, in the Gage McFadden played the ship's doctor in the first episode, in the first season, and the third and beyond. But for reasons that are still kind of vague and nebulous, they never quite said why she wasn't coming back for the second season. It may have been because I think she was doing a movie or two. But Gene Roddenberry, who was still very much at the helm, decided he wanted a female doctor who was more like Leonard McCoy from the old show. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is when you have one who is cantankerous all the time, mm-hmm. she doesn't come across as authoritative or intelligent. She comes across, mean and unlikable, and she was very much that. And that was the experience. It left a really bad taste in my mouth to the point that when she left without explanation and Gates McFadden came back, they never it was sort of like, we can forget she was around. Mm-hmm. We don't have to remember her. She never came back for any episodes to my knowledge, and rightfully so. Now, I was concerned if we had a doctor, because the doctor is very authoritative. Mm-hmm. With one line with David Tennant, the Arachnos queen literally said, "Who speaks with such command?" Yeah. Because the doctor does. The doctor, all he has to do is get really serious, because usually he can be very flippant. But once he gets serious, it's like, oh, he means business. So and in the first episode,
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, in the first episode of the Christmas Invasion, where he gave the Sycorax every chance to leave, and the Sycorax went to stab him in the back, and he throws his fruit at a beam, at a button that essentially knocks the Sycorax off the ship to his death. And the doctor says, no second chances. That's the type of man I am. Because every doctor has a different aspect of the doctor's personality.
Okay.
So when they showed, yeah.
I'm just going to say, because I'll forget this. Let me get this in. When Jodie came in as the female, you're talking about the strength and how they take command of stuff. My take, maybe it's wrong, was that all throughout the season she was confused, and it was not only a little bit confused because she's the new doctor, but confused, and it was mentioned a couple times because she was a she, and he wasn't used to being a she.
Yes,
so
there's a great meme that says everyone take into account that for the first couple of days, the doctor in her new body was still wearing old man clothes and underpants with no bra.
There you go. See? So that is there. And then, okay, I want to mention some classic villains like, the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels, the Daleks, none of whom were written into any of the episodes of the first season until the New Year's special, when a single Dalek showed up.
Sort of.
But at the same time, there was, when she finally met up with that Dalek, at one point in that New Year's show, she stood up to it. And, that was the first time that I've seen the character take command. But then, all right, so there's the Dalek. But at the same time, while I'm missing my villains, the newest bad guy this season was Tim Shaw. Now, fortunately, our own Tim Shaw doesn't have a face full of teeth, is not of the Stenza race, to my knowledge, and he hasn't been alive for thousands of years. That being said, I kind of can see a vague similarity between the two.
Ice cold hands?
I don't know about that, but, there's just some personality quirk there that screams Tim. But I'm sure everybody at Pair X who knows Tim Shaw and who watched Doctor Who, and they kept talking about Tim Shaw, got a chuckle out of that.
Oh, I posted to his Facebook the moment it happened. I was like, wait, are they saying Tim Shaw? And I went next door to the Better TV where I pulled on the subtitles, and sure enough, I'm like, oh, my God. Well, that's going on his page.
I sent him a picture of the monster. Yes, I did. I said, here, this is you now. But, where'd you get all those teeth? Which is a very cute thing to have teeth all over his face. That was really kind of nice. But so, all right. So what is your take on this new season? And Kat in chat said she still wants to know. Oh my God! It squinched back.
That cat, Coco cat?
No, Cat, other cat.
Gas?
Cat O. It said she still wants to know. What do you mean that Doctor Who can't be a woman?
I didn't say he couldn't be a woman. I grew up whenever the rumors would come up saying I can't see her the Doctor as played by a female because I was worried she would become another Dr. Pulaski and she would just be really, because look at Peter Capaldi. He's played it kind of cantankerous a lot.
Yeah.
But it worked for him because he was the right age and, it kind of worked for him to be craggy, but he still began developing a major sense of humor. Like when he was at testimony with the first Doctor, played by Doug Bradley, or
David Bradley.
Yeah, that he, David Bradley. Yeah, that when Bradley was shown all of the future incarnations of the Doctor and the blood, that essentially the Doctor had become the Doctor of War. And the first Doctor's like, what was that? And he says, well, to be fair, they cut out all the jokes. And that's the thing, is that the Doctor has a primary sense of humor. He uses it as both defense and as a distraction when he's talking down a villain. So my concern was when they showed that first teaser with the Doctor walking towards the TARDIS, and they first showed her eye, and I thought, oh God, it's a woman. Oh my God, they went that route. And then they showed her with the hood come down with the blonde hair. I'm like, I have no idea who this is. And it says, Jodie Whittaker is the Doctor. I'm like, I have no idea who this is. So I looked her up, and I thought, oh, she was in Broadchurch with David Tennant, and she's brilliant. I know she can act. Okay, now I'm not so worried. And I watched her first 2 episodes, and yes, she was a little confused, but the Doctor's first or 2 episodes of a newer generation tend to be like trying to figure out what aspect of the Doctor that role is.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was Chris Chibnall, who's now the showrunner since Stephen Moffat left, he said in advance, no old villains. And we were like, sorry, what?
Yeah, really.
And they brought in Ryan and Yaz, who everybody at first thought, well, they're going to be the new romance, like Amy and Rory companions, but that didn't happen. And somebody said recently that Yaz implied that she was gay. I'm like, what? I don't remember her saying that, but I'll have to go back and look. But to me, the best character of the season has been Graham.
Yes, he's very good.
Yeah, and I think he's just very funny and very likable. And the thing is when they show the cast so often before the show airs, and you kind of realize in the first episode, oh, his wife's going to die because she's not in the cast. And sure enough.
Yep.
But she showed up later in an episode where they had every opportunity to bring back a former companion, a former doctor, in the form of the mirror creature, whatever. I forget what the name of the creature was.
Yeah.
And then it just shows up as a frog on a chair. And I'm like, seriously, that's the form you take to discuss how you're going to miss the Doctor because the universes are collapsing and she has to be let go. And the way they did the coming attraction, they even showed Jodie like blowing a kiss to somebody, and we're like, oh, we're going to have an old companion come back, yay! And then nah.
Editing does an amazing job, yeah. But usually, and for people who don't know, there's usually been 1 or 2 companions, but we have 4 this time.
3.
Well, all right, 3.
She's not her own companion.
That's true. You're right. I'm still thinking of the Christmas episode where the dad was going to join them before.
Oh, yeah.
Before, but we can't say why he didn't.
Aaron. Yeah. But he, taking into account, we're still calling it a Christmas episode because for years we had Christmas Day, and then Chibnall messed us up and threw it on New Year's Day, and we're like, you just want us to hate you, don't you? It seems to be there. I'm thinking, did they bring him in to sabotage the show because the BBC is tired of it themselves? And they're like, oh, it's been on for so long, maybe we should give somebody else a chance, even though it's our and it's been losing viewers right and left. The YouTube video reviews have been brutal. And the problem is, I don't mind if they want to go to do what are called historical stories. Because in the original premise of the show was no bug-eyed monsters. It was all going to be educational, almost like what they're going to, the Magic School Bus show where the little girl drives the kids around and shows them all kinds of weird stuff.
Right.
Here they were going to go to different points of history, which in the Hartnell's time they did a lot of historical shows, but the characters had to deal with the humans in that whatever that time period was. They didn't have, something's weird because there's an alien.
Yeah.
In fact, the closest we had was in one of the historical shows back in the feudal times. They came across another Time Lord called the Meddling Monk.
Yeah.
And the Doctor ended up stranding him there by disabling his TARDIS. And somehow he was still able to come back in a later show. But
poetic license. But so that's why, that's why in this season, one of the first shows was the Rosa Parks episode.
Yes. And again, they had to bring in some guy who was racist or something. They never explained his backstory, and he was pretty much gotten rid of rather quickly and anticlimactically. And then they said, okay, and I'm thinking, watch it be revisionist history, and it kind of was, because I've learned that Rosa Parks wasn't the first person to have that happen. She actually did it deliberately so that she would be arrested, so that she would be the poster girl for the group that Graham went into. I think it was Graham. No, it was Ryan. Ryan went into the group, and he met Martin Luther King and all that.
Right.
It's odd that the source was an episode of Drunk History, but apparently there was a 15-year-old girl who was on a bus a few months or so before the Rosa Parks incident, and she was let off the bus because she wouldn't get up for a white person, even though there were other seats. Mm-hmm. And the group that Ryan was there, their idea was like, well, no one's going to, believe a 15-year-old, so they brought Rosa in to make her look like the victim involved. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, they're going to leave that part out, and sure enough, they did. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I hear, and I'm not sure how accurate it is. I kind of see a lot of it, but I don't think it's as bonk on the head. But it's like these episodes. Well, first off, there was a video reviewer who pointed out each of the writers that wasn't Chris Chibnall has no background writing science fiction. So I have to wonder, did they write the historical show, like, here's the story, and Chris went in maybe and added the alien involved? Because in the India episode, where they went back to Roz's grandmother's wedding, all of a sudden there's a pair of aliens. And the doctor's all freaked out because they're like these major warrior assassins. And by the time she finally gets there, they're like, oh, we don't do that anymore. We're nice. I'm like, wait, what? And then they're like, well, there are people who die alone, and we're going to be there so that they don't die alone.
Yeah, they go from bad guys to, oh my God, they're wonderful angels. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, why is this so SW, social justice warrior thing going on?
Yeah.
And the thing is all I could think of is the episode now I want to see is these two aliens trying to comfort someone who's dying, having to mess with testimony, saying, we need that guy's memories for our project. Mm-hmm. And the two of them having to, battle it out and all that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So now we, in the same episode with testimony, the Twice Upon a Time last Christmas episode we had, the doctor finds out what testimony is, and he literally goes, well, it's not an evil plan. I don't know what to do when it's not an evil plan. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden we're getting these villains who turn out to they're okay.
Yeah, and people love to hate villains. So why?
Yes.
Why sugarcoat them?
They're taking out all the conflict. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, don't they realize how narrative fiction works?
And also that people want to see the old villains. I mean, there are so many of them. I mean, Daleks and Cybermen and Weeping Angels and any number of them. I think. I think those are the main ones. But you want to see somebody that you can love to hate. That's all part of the thing. And the good wins over bad. It's not that the good just gets better. So that's kind of it. I did like the Witch Hunter General.
That was a brilliant episode. It came very close to being a Doctor Who episode. And Alan Cumming, not surprisingly, stole every scene he was in.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking, he's too good to be true. He's going to be the villain. Or he's going to turn out to be the alien. And he was just King James.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and I was
that was my favorite.
And it was another episode of what I call a companion we should have had. And the little Willa girl, she should have come along. She would have been an excellent companion. And also Kira from Kabloom episode, which also was one of the first. We're almost trying to Doctor Who. And again, what we thought was the villain turned out to be just some whiny little social warrior kid.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, robots are working and humans shouldn't, so we'll make the robots look bad, and then and he's end up killing people to do that. I'm like, that's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it wasn't, and
yeah. So all right. So we got a late start, but so what is your prognosis for next season? Is it going to be different? Is there going to be an outcry of watchers who just quit watching because of all these changes? What do you think?
Well, the recent episode had like 5.5 million viewers, down from like much more than that before the episode, before the season started, because people were so. Jodie is great. I like Jodie very much. Ryan and Yaz, they're kind of there. And Graham is fantastic.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the scripts are just so badly written. Yeah. And the casts are doing the best they can with the material they have, but it's just so bad. And Chibnall is hinting that he's only going to do one more season. And I'm like, yay, bye. You can write an occasional episode, but stop being showrunner. But then Jodie is saying, well, if he leaves, I'm leaving. I'm like, why? You got a cushy gig. If you get good writers, you're going to have fantastic work to do.
Yeah.
But like, I think people...
I don't think it's the fact that Jodie is the new Doctor Who that is making things bad. I think she's likable. She's funny.
Yes.
She's a good actress. And so in that respect, a friend of mine who's also very Whovian said, couldn't think of anybody better as a female to be Doctor Who than Jodie. But I just hate to see it go down the toilet because of these other changes, the writers and the stuff, because it doesn't have the Doctor Who feel yet. Now that
right.
This is only the first season, they're just getting started. But I would hope that they would take notice of what people are saying and what they're doing, and
yes.
Hopefully make it better, because it's okay. Like you said, the Witchfinder General was a really almost good episode. It was and it wasn't just because of witches, it was just well done. And a couple of the other ones, they're interesting. None of them have been bad. All right. They've just changed. This is my opinion. But they don't have the Who feel.
Right.
And
it's like a badly done fan fiction thing or something.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So
but even when the Doctor gave her ultimatum to the Dalek, and then she turns around and is like, "Well, you saw I gave him a chance." I'm like, why would you ask their permission?
Yeah.
Destroy the Dalek. It's a Dalek. Come on, that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing they were saying, well, there's going to be, a Dalek with a new design. I'm like, oh, we already had that problem with the new Paradigm Daleks, which were horrible back in Matt Smith's time. But fortunately, they immediately thought, oh, that was a mistake. And now the Paradigm Daleks went to the background, and we brought back proper Daleks.
Right.
So this one, when we realized, oh, it's one out of its case, and it was like if a cosplayer was making the most hastily made Dalek casing in the world. But it also reminded me of the Special Weapons Dalek from Remembrance of the Daleks, so the McCoy episode, which essentially was this white tank that had like one big weapon in the front.
Yeah.
It didn't even have an eye. I was like, wait, how does it see? It doesn't have an eye stalk. But this one, and it was and I was thinking, thank God they brought Nicholas Briggs back. But even the writing for his lines. Also, I don't know why. I'm going to Gallifrey 1 finally, the convention this year. I was able. I shot a commercial, so I actually had the money to get the tickets for this year.
Excellent.
And as Nicholas Briggs is going to be there, one of the questions I have to remember to ask him at the Q&A is, why did he allow the Dalek to say certain things that a Dalek wouldn't say. A Dalek wouldn't say, "You're under my power." He would say, "You're under my control." A Dalek wouldn't say, "Go faster in a car." Of all things, why wouldn't he say, "Accelerate, accelerate"?
Yeah.
It would have got a laugh, but it would have been perfect.
It would have, yeah. So there's a lot to fix up here, and I hope, because I'm in love with the series in general. I mean, all of them, and I don't want to see it tank because of some people not doing the right thing or thinking they can make it better, because it wasn't broken.
Exactly. So, they were trying to fix what wasn't broken.
Right. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next season. But in the meantime, we've got like 2 minutes. So tell everybody where they can find you and what you're up to very quickly.
Okay, well, Saturday nights, obviously, you can find me here on the Paranormal View, which is at 5 to 7 Pacific Time, 8 to 10 Eastern Time. That's usually live. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at RealBadger, RealBadger. My website is geoffgould.net, which is actually spelled GeoffGould.net. Plus, one of my scripts won a script competition, one of my dark comedies, and we shot it back in March, and we finally finished it with a little bit of a musical score. So now we're just trying to wonder how we can afford to actually submit it to film festivals. So, yay! I'm trying to think of anything else, but I can't offhand. And I'm on Facebook. You can look for actor Jeffrey Gould. Remember, it's with a G. And you can look up Jeffrey Gould self. And I also have a tongue-in-cheek animal page called Village of the Damned Cats. And what's the other one? Well, it's kind of health-based, but I haven't added to that in a while. But yeah, but I'm more on Twitter. I play hashtag games. My cool. Dark, twisted sense of humor goes in.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in, and we just kind of rehashed. No, that's okay. We have, we could have gone on and on, but I think we kind of, talked and got it out of our systems for the good and the bad. So thanks for being here. Hang on when we get off, and I'll thank you properly. And everybody, thank you for joining us tonight, and hope to see some of you Sunday at YouTube. Go to bonnievent.com. And until next time, everybody, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Please join us again next week at the same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2018. The Path of the Goblin King by Kevin MacLeod is licensed through Incompetech.com.